right, welcome to this webinar. I'm really excited about today's webinar. It's a little bit of a different type of webinar for us. It's more of a show and tell today. Typically our webinars, we like to talk about some interesting thought leadership topic, but today we're going to do some show and tell. And I actually do think it's some good thought leadership because hopefully it will get you some nice ideas on how to implement chatbots with Microsoft Teams and other worksite collaboration platforms. So welcome to the webinar. You will all get a link to this recording of the webinar after it's over. I'm Vince Hahn. I'm the founder and CEO of Mobile Coach, and happy to be with you today, and thank you for joining. Let me first say that talk about why we did this integration. So Mobile Coach is a chatbot authoring tool. We cater to enterprises that are wanting chatbots for specific business purpose. And a big priority for our clients is to have these chatbots be as accessible as possible to their workforce. And a lot of the times, and the reason we're called Mobile Coach is because a lot of times the answer to that is on the mobile device through a chatbot channel like SMS or Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or something like that. But in other cases, people are on their desktops, people have workplace policies that maybe discourage SMS or maybe not even allow SMS. But if an organization has rolled out a worksite collaboration platform like Teams, well, they're already going to be on that platform. And so what a great ideal place to have a chatbot. And we're talking to more and more organizations that are rolling out Teams and other workplace worksite collaboration platforms. And so, you know, we started looking at the integration, and we're really, really proud of the work that we've done, and that's what we're going to show you today. So if you could put in the chat, I'm curious, does your company use a worksite collaboration tool? And if so, what is it? I would love for you to just put in the chat. For us, we use Zoom. We also use Facebook Workplace. So I'm curious what have people put in there. And for those of you that are saying yes to Teams and specifically Teams, one thing I've noticed is that a lot of organizations have rolled out Teams or enabled Teams, but might be struggling getting adoption to using Teams. So if that's the case for your organization, would you mind just putting in the chat a sentence or two on, you know, what's adoption like? What are some of the challenges to getting user adoption to Teams? And I think that's going to help everybody else on the webinar as they are implementing Teams. I mean, it would make sense if you joined the webinar that you've got some Teams related questions or you're curious about how Teams can be used. So if you could put that all in the chat as we go, then that'll make things a little bit more interesting for everybody as well. Okay, so the format of today's demo is there's sort of two components to the demo. First, I'm going to demo a series of chatbots on Microsoft Teams, and then I'm going to demo how to integrate and plug those chatbots into Teams. So the first one's more user experience catered, and the second part will be a slightly more technical. And we'll cruise along and keep things moving on. If you've got questions about anything you're seeing, please put them in the chat. I do have some colleagues on as panelists. They promise they'll be watching questions so that you get your questions answered, and also get my attention if there's a question that I need to answer. So now I'm going to share my screen. And here's Teams. So this is not meant to. You're using Teams, you already know how to use it. And just parenthetically, I am now noticing Zoom is switching which mic it's using. So I'm just going to talk loud, and hopefully you'll be able to hear what I'm saying. But let me, now that I'm sharing my screen, make sure I've got the chat open so I can see the chat window. All right, so here's our instance of Teams. You can just see we can use Teams like anyone would to collaborate and have conversations. And so you can see a little interaction here. I asked earlier who on my team is joining today's webinar. Of course, we've got different teams for different departments in the company. So if I go to my chat section here, I have a series of different chatbots that I wanted to show you. The first one will be this contact lookup chatbot. Now, all of these demos today are meant to be conceptual, really to show you how a chatbot can be really a great resource for your workforce. So this first one is, for a large organization, let's say that I'm trying to look up somebody. So I'm going to look up Paul Bills here on my contact lookup chatbot. And the chatbot should come back and tell me who Paul is and give me the contact information. Now, this is a nice chatbot just to talk briefly about. Of course, you have a company directory somewhere, and people should know how to access that company directory. So why would you want to put that in Teams in a chatbot? It just underscores the value of the frictionless nature of a chatbot. Frictionless meaning reduced number of steps. It's conversational user interface. I don't need to go to a search bar. I don't need to remember to go log in somewhere. So while this may not make sense for everybody, this is a great example of just a really quick, immediate access to information that I'm looking for my organization. Now, of course, for something like a contact lookup, this would require integration with an HRIS system so that we could do the lookup. But as long as that HRIS system is API friendly, then it should be pretty straightforward to do. So let's look at another one. As I've talked with people about ideas for chatbots that leverage this principle of frictionless interaction, I get a lot of acronym type of answers. Like, what about all these acronyms that our company has? Every enterprise seems to have a lot of acronyms that people are trying to remember what they stand for. We are no exception here at Mobile Coach. And so we have a little acronym bot. And so I'm going to put in here an acronym, a very commonly used acronym here at Mobile Coach, MCP. And so for those of you that don't work at Mobile Coach, you probably don't know what that means. And for new employees that are onboarding to Mobile Coach, they also may not know what that means. And here it is. MCP stands for Mobile Coach Platform. I'm going to show you actually how we authored this a little later on in today's demo. This is one of the easier chatbots to author. But another great example, an acronym bot. So then the next one I wanted to show you is our HR bot. And this one's a little bit different in that it has, you can configure buttons. So you can see here, I've got this little HR bot. Earlier I was testing it and I clicked on holidays. It showed me what paid holidays we have here at Mobile Coach. Microsoft Teams, if you create a bunch of buttons, will automatically format that in a scroll form that you can see here. So if I click on this right button, I get another button. And of course, if I continue to have lots of buttons, I can just scroll back and forth. So I'm going to click on Hotline, see what it gives me here. And so here's the response. We take workplace safety seriously. So it gives me a chance to make a report. So I could go in. I won't take the time to do it now, but you get the idea where I can go in and anonymously make a report. So again, with our Mobile Coach authoring platform, you can create custom buttons. You can have those buttons linked to different resources that already exist. And at risk of sounding like a broken record, that really leverages the frictionless nature of a chatbot. Just quick, easy access to an answer I'm looking for or a resource that I'm looking for. Now, a lot of the work that we do at Mobile Coach is supporting learning, workplace learning. And so some of the things I just showed you now might be a little bit more HR related, but we do support a variety of different learning use cases, and maybe you'll think of some as well. But there's a performance support demo I have here. So this is my how-to bot. And so if we look at this, it says, "Hi, I'm the CRM implementation bot. Feel free to ask me questions about our new CRM pipe drive at any time." At Mobile Coach, the CRM we happen to use is a system called Pipedrive, of course. There's lots of different CRMs out there. So this is a chatbot that helps someone that's trying to learn how to use the CRM with questions that they might have. So I'm going to ask this a question. So let me ask, how do I link a person to a different organization. And it gives me coaching says that it's actually easy to do. That's good to know. Hopefully it is easy. And it gives me a link to a job aid. And the job aid could be just a link to what the CRM already has as a how-to guide, or it could be a link to a screencast, could be linked to an image, or it could just be an explanation as well. All those things are possible as you author the right appropriate response. So that is the performance support demo. I do also want to demo training reinforcement. That's a really popular use case for us, is having chatbots for a training reinforcement journey. But to demo that, I'm going to demo actually how to plug in a chatbot into Teams, which is, as I mentioned earlier, a tad more technical. But I'll show you how to do that, and it'll be good for you just to see how that might work. But I'm going to pause here, and if people have questions about what they've seen, I can see. Thank you for your question, Laura, and my team is hopping on the chat to answer the questions. But if you've got questions, please put them in there. If you've got ideas, like, oh, this would be a great idea for a chatbot, and you don't mind sharing it, of course, you might want to keep that idea all to yourself. But if you've got a great idea, we are really excited about people seeing chatbots on Teams for their organizations, and to see what type of use cases that they can think of that could be really useful. So please put that in the chat so we can get a sense of what you're thinking about. Okay, so we have these chatbots, and then we have our authoring platform. How do you link them together? That's what I'm going to show you now. So first, we do have a job aid that walks you through step by step on how to do this. And so if you've got a Teams administrator, that's the person that would have to have access to do that. So Teams, of course, is built all in the Microsoft Azure portal. That's what you see here. And I'm going to walk you through how to do this. So I've created a new manager onboarding chatbot. Now I want to put it into my Teams instance. So the way I would do that, I log into my Azure instance. I'm going to create a resource. I'm going to click on bot. Now you don't have to remember all of this because we have this job aid. This is really meant to give you a sense of what it's like, and you'll see it'll only take a couple minutes. So I'm going to create a bot handle for this chatbot. This is my new manager onboarding. Now your bot handle has to be unique across all of Microsoft's clients, and so I'm going to make this just a little bit technical, just so I know that it's going to work. So new manager onboarding, not the best name, but I know it's going to work for now. You come in, you fill out some of these fields, and so here I go, and then I'm going to create. It's a lot of pointing and clicking. And we get that going. And now we're going to go to our bot services. So Azure has all these different services, and so we're going to click on bot services. And then I'm going to find my bot. It's not showing up. Sometimes Azure is a little slow. Oh, you know where I can go? I can see if it's up in my notifications. Well, wouldn't you know, this would have to happen during our live webinar. So what we have experienced in the past is that when I've when you create a chatbot, sometimes there is a little bit of latency for Azure to catch up. So we're not gonna wait for it now, but it would show up, and I'll show you a little bit of how the configuration looks. And so once it does show up, there are different settings that you would, so it would show up here, and then you would click on a couple settings that I would have shown you, and then it would appear in Teams. So it's pretty straightforward. Now, let me tell you how then a user gets to that chatbot using Teams. The easiest way to do it is you come to your channels and you click on Teams after it's running, and then you click the link address, and you share that link address with anyone who you want to use that chatbot. And so, in fact, let's do that. So I'm going to copy this link address. I'm going to open up a new browser. If I click on that link and open up to Microsoft Teams, it'll take me right to that chatbot. Pretty easy. So that's the easiest way to do it, where you can share a link to that chatbot. As long as someone has a Teams account in your organization, they'll be able to pop open the chatbot just like this. Now, so that's the first way to do it. There is another way to do it. And the second way to do it is through, it's a little bit more technical, but it's called creating a manifest file. And this is a little bit more technical. We have this included in our job aid, but basically you go into Azure and there's a step-by-step process to export some code that gets put into a zip file. And if I go into Teams and I click on apps down here at the bottom, and I'm assuming can people still see my screen? If someone can just put it in the chat whether you can still see my screen, because I'm missing the normal Zoom. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm having all sorts of technical problems this morning, but Zoom usually gives me a border that's now missing. But anyway, so if you go down to this apps link here, you notice this upload a custom app. So if I were to click on that, it would give me a pop-up, and I would go to that zip file. Here's one that I did before, and then it would import that code. So here's the difference. I just showed you that you can just share the bot through the link, but if you did it through the upload process, there's a couple major differences. The first is if I go to my apps, you'll notice I have this section here that appears called Built for Mobile Coach. And so I did this with one of my apps, the acronym bot, and now the acronym bot shows up here in the Built for Mobile Coach. Otherwise, if I just did it via link, those other bots will not show up here. Then if I go to my to actual bots, as I mentioned, the acronym link was done through this manifest file. So you'll notice that it has an about page. And if I hover over it, I get a lot more metadata about the chatbot. And if I compare that to a chatbot where I didn't do the manifest file, I don't get an about link. And if I hover over it, I get a very simple message. In most cases, you may not care. This may not be a big deal, but depending on your use case, it might be a big deal. And so I just wanted to show you the difference of how that worked. Perhaps the biggest usability difference is that if you just use the link version, the only way to access the chatbot is through the link. If you do the manifest file, up here in the search bar, it will show up as searchable. So that's that's a pretty significant usability difference. So there's a third way to publish a chatbot. And the third way to publish a chatbot is to create a public chatbot. And that public chatbot would appear under the bots here. So if you create a public chatbot, it would have to be approved by Microsoft, sort of like an app store app would have to get approved, and it would be available to everybody. So I'm going to answer, Laura, to answer your question, for the first two types, just sharing the link and the manifest file, for both of those, you can restrict the chatbot to a specific population. If you do this third type and make it public in their bot store, then of course that's going to be available to everybody. And in our job aid, we tell you specifically how to restrict it to a certain population. You can restrict it to just a team. You can restrict it just to a specific organization in Azure. Good question. So that gives you a sense of how you can put a chatbot into Teams. Again, there are three ways. I've also, as we've been playing around with it, you'll notice that in Teams, for each team that you create, you can create a wiki. And so if you've created a chatbot just for a specific team, You can edit your wiki up here like I did and put links right to the chatbots that you want to use. We found that to be a pretty useful technique as well. But one of the, maybe from the chatbot workflow perspective, the most challenging piece will be after you've created your chatbot, making sure people can find it. And so as you roll out chatbots and on Teams and find good ways to get people to find it and to interact with it, please share that with us. We'd love to share best practices across our entire mobile coach universe. So thank you. Thank you in advance if you can do that. So those are the 3 ways to implement one of our chatbots into Teams. And for Facebook Workplace, it's very similar. I'm not going to take the time today to demo that because it's just sort of replacing what you see here with Teams with the Facebook Workplace interface, and that would stay true for Slack as well. Very similar. The backend interfaces are slightly different in terms of how to plug in the chatbot into those particular platforms, but the principles are all the same, and we've created job aids for each of them. So let me pause here and see if if people have other questions, please put them in the chat. Chris asked a question, for learning use cases, what do you see as benefit adaptive learning? Well, I think that the biggest benefit, if you think about the benefits for chatbots, is just what type of engagement can you get from learners through a conversation that you can't get through a traditional media interface? And through a conversation, adaptive learning actually lends itself really well to chatbots because part of the innate definition of adaptive is that it requires time, right? Because time is a prerequisite to adapting to something. And so if you can have a chatbot be smart about where status, it can be extremely useful use case. Okay, so lastly, and I'm a little afraid that I lost audio. Have I lost audio again? Can people hear me? Okay, I'm back. Thank you. I wanted to show you an example of, for those of you that are unfamiliar with our platform, just a really quick snapshot of that acronym chatbot that I was showing you. Let's just go back there real quick and show you how that looks. So the acronym chatbot, you can see it's just plugging in some acronyms and having the chatbot be able to tell me what the acronyms stand for. This is how that was authored. Very, very simple. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with how to author using our platform, please reach out. We'd be happy to show you a demo, happy to show you a sandbox on how to do it. But what hopefully you got from today was, hey, there's a lot of cool things and compelling reasons to have chatbots on Teams and on Workplace and Slack for that matter. We've got this great and easy authoring platform that you can use to make your vision for your chatbot become real. And we have the support and the infrastructure to help you put those things together. So thank you for your questions. Thank you for attending today. That's it. That's a demo, pretty straightforward and easy. If you have other questions that I didn't get to, please let us know. You can reach me at vince@mobilecoach.com. You can reply to the email that you get from Casey with the link to the recording to the webinar. So thank you all for joining. Really appreciate it and hope everyone has a great day.